Hello everyone. Today I am working on adjusting the sleeve length on a gentleman's suit. And as you can see, I've already taken the buttons off, and right along here there were 4 fake buttonholes. They were not cut through, so it's just for design. And you can see I've already taken the stitching out, which is super easy. And the way I did that is by on the underside, which actually you have to get back into here, there is stitching. The bottom of the stitching, you just pick one little piece of the thread out, and when you pull it, the whole thing comes out. Super easy. And you repeat that 4 times. Now what I'm going to show is how I actually go about with taking this apart a little bit, taking some of the seams out to be able to get my hands in there to adjust the length. This usually stops up here. This is leftover thread from the button that I took off. Let me get that out of there. And then you just go back up here to the top of where this little piece ends, right there. And I am going to take this is my seam ripper, which is an X-Acto knife that I got at the Dollar General store for $1. But you just tap the threads, and they just start coming apart very carefully, of course, so you don't cut any of the fabric. And I just go right along here and tap the threads, and it comes apart very easily. Sorry. Just go right along the edge to take the lining away from the cuff itself. And I'm going to turn this inside out and keep going. Right there it's back stitched, so it's a little bit more thread that you have to cut through. So I'm just going to go right through that carefully, and then just keep going until you get the lining separated. And just go there. And then I stuff the lining back up into the sleeve, out of the way. This coat needs to be adjusted by 1 inch. So the 1 inch mark is right there, which is at the bottom of where the button was. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take apart this seam right here with my thread tool. Just take it all the way down to the bottom like that. And then I am going to take this corner apart as well by just taking out those stitches like that. But since I'm going to adjust this by 1 inch, I'm not going to trim this off. I'm going to use this as my guide. And so since it's the new length of the sleeve is going to come to here, I need to turn this inside out, and I'm going to line up these edges and sew it back with the new length. And the new length is this much longer. So right now I'm going to sew this together. And I'm going to trim this little corner out so I have a nice pointy corner. And I'm going to turn this right side out like that. And I'm going to push this corner tip out so it's nice and pointed. That looks like a piece of, that's buttonhole thread. I didn't get it all. You can always go back and pick it off. since I can't get that off, I'm going to just snip it. And not to worry, this is all going to be underneath this outside part of the cuff. So you see right here, that's exactly where I needed it to be on the new length. So this much is coming off, and this is the new length. So then what I do is I very carefully press and pin the new length. I'm going to flatten that really nice and put a pin right there just to hold it. And then I just keep going. And I put another pin in here, and I'll take out all these threads here when I get finished. And before I can get to this end, I need to recreate this point. So there's a couple stitches left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this up the distance that I'm making the new hem, and I'm going to fold this down right back. Oops, where's my new hem? Let's see, I have to have this in here first, I guess. Let me pin this. Okay, so when I get to this corner, I'm going to fold this down and okay, I'm getting there. It's kind of tricky. So there's the new length right there. So I'm going to pin this to hold it for me. And then when I get to this corner is mitered. So first I think what I'm going to do is pin this down. And then I'm going to miter that corner just like that. And when I actually do the sewing, I'm not going to use my machine to sew this cuff back. I do it all by hand. And in here, I'm going to do a blind stitch so that you don't see it, and it'll pull it nice and tight just the way it originally was. So that's that part. And when you put this, oops, excuse me, when you put this back the way it originally was, and those corners are mitered, you can see that it's a perfect alignment. You don't worry about these these are needle marks from the fake buttonholes. When you steam it, those all disappear, and then you just redo the buttons. And this client said he doesn't want the buttonholes to be there. He just wants the 4 buttons. So there you go. So that's how you decrease the length of a sleeve. And then I'm going to do basically the same thing to the lining. Let me pin this so that it stays, because I want it to look right. And then I want to pin this together because I want to make sure I don't make this too wide. Actually, that's a little bit wide, as you can see the little pucker right there. So I'm going to straighten it out and put my pin back in there. And now I'm going to pull that lining back through that I shoved up into the sleeve. And here it is. And I'm just going to shorten. See, that's the fold of the original lining. So now I'm going to decrease that by 1 inch. and tuck it behind. And then when I get it lined up inside like that, I'm going to pin it. So I'm going to do a blind invisible stitch by hand, stitching this to this. And I'm going to go all the way around pinning it. And see, the seams are lining up. Got to decrease that by an inch. Put it right there. And put a pin. And not to worry, all those pins that I put in there, I'm going to remove them as I hand sew this back together. See, there's that right there. The pinning is absolutely a must. You have to have a way to hold this thing together because it is kind of awkward. And then, never seen that before in a lining, but it's the first time for everything. So I'm folding that down a whole inch, bringing it down to the original crease, which I can take this pin out and just use it. And then turning it and doing the same thing over here. You can actually see where I folded it up an extra inch. And then I'm going to sit it right on that old crease. And as I hem, I work with it to make it fit this. See, you can tell that it's not pinned, evenly, but as I sew it, it's going to come out perfect. And that's how I adjust the sleeves of a suit.